Here's the problem, Michael. I thought if Morrison didn't come out with a clear win, and I don't think he did, it's a loss for him because he's got to make up ground on Labor. You see the polls today, 8 points ahead Labor is under NEWSPOLL. Ipsos, they're even further behind the Liberals. What do these polls tell you? Give up hope? Pour yourself a stiff scotch?
So what they tell you, Andrew, is that what we, the coalition, have done so far isn't working, presuming the polls are right. I think they underestimate the Morrison vote for reasons I've explained previously. But it's even with a shy Morrison vote effect, it's not enough to win. So that's not as if they haven't been trying. They've been doing their very best. They've got all the research, etc. So I think they've got to change tack a bit. Having said that, you know, it's very easy for people in the grandstand to be giving advice as to how people should kick goals better. These guys on our side, on Labor's side, are the best people around. They're very good, right, these organisers. But you can't introduce new concepts into an election at this point. Morrison's going for a fourth term, which I've said all along is very difficult. You have to argue why you need 3 to do what you haven't been able to do in the last 9. So all of the problems are in Morrison's camp. He needs to define this debate now by 3 issues, in my view. One is, and he needs to hammer these in every interview, in every press conference, every day between now and the election, you will pay higher interest rates under Labor, and historically they're 1.5% higher. You will have lower real wages under Labor, because if you look at the history over the last 20 or 30 years, real wage increases are lower under the Labor Party. You particularly have a look at the Howard government period, how Howard and Costello did so well on real wages. And thirdly, certainly in Victoria, you'd be saying an Albanese victory will give more power to Daniel Andrews, because Morrison stood up to Albanese. Morrison stood up to Andrews. But not, well, of course it will. You've got a Labor Premier and a Labor Prime Minister. Daniel Andrews will run rings around poor old Albo.
That line might work in Victoria, but as for real wage growth, it hasn't been good for years now, before even the pandemic. For me,
9 years.
Steve, can I ask you?
9 years it's been falling.
Well, there you go.
Steve, there's the same problem worldwide. There's a worldwide problem, Stephen.
No, it wasn't.
And your bloke says he can fix it.
For the 6 years of Labor government, there were modest. For the 6 years, there was modest real wage growth. That's a plus.
Oh, I better check that.
For the last 6 years. Then you get 9 years where it's just gone like this. And the Treasury documents, the government's own documents,
it's the same everywhere in the world.
A few months ago, where it's going to fall another couple of years.
Michael, it might be the same everywhere else, but that is not going to help Scott Morrison, who's going to run a scare campaign on it. You see, this is the point.
Well, it will, Andrew. Steve, it will.
I know you want to. I know you. Well, let me tell you, Michael. My beef has been from the start, and I've mentioned this before. Scott Morrison is running on his record. And the record is not brilliant. I mean, there's good parts to it, there's bad parts to it, but it's not brilliant. And he's not talking about the future, while Albanese is. You said he should be making a case, although it's hard, for the next 3 years. I haven't heard that case. And I reckon this is his fatal mistake.
And I think that's a fair comment. You actually need a big policy, bold initiative to say to people, that's why you need to re-elect us. But in the absence of having any more money to spend, which you can't do, you have to actually look at, the history of Labor and the history of the coalition. Labor say, they're going to do their best to increase real wages. And the Shadow Treasurer was asked the other day, and he has no idea how to do it.
Yeah, I just think
Andrew, the problem that Morrison's got.
But I've got to go, gentlemen. I'm sorry, Steve, to cut you off, but I've got to go. Steve, sorry about that, mate. I always seem to be doing this to you. Michael Kroger and Steve, sorry to you both. Apologies. Come back to you next week.